Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. If you'd like to keep up with all things Clown Decade, please do subscribe to the channel and of course become a member. But today we are talking about something a little more serious and something that actually you can get involved at the very least if you are a Reform member, and if you are not a Reform member, you know, go join them. We're pretty cool. But anyway, today we are talking about the party board elections. Reform UK is holding a vote of all party members to elect 3 members of the party board. This is a fantastic opportunity for the membership to choose who should sit on the party's most important decision-making body alongside Nigel Farage MP, the party chairman Dr David Bull, and other members of the board. This is another promise the party has kept in the democratisation of Reform UK. Applications remain open until, well, we're way past that, ignore that bit. We're just going to move over to the voting. So when it comes to voting, you must have been a member before the 1st of May 2025, and you will be able to vote for 3 candidates for the 3 positions of the board that are open. Voting will be first past the post, which is the best voting system, with the top 3 candidates elected to the board. Voting will be open on the 14th of August, and there will be a 1-week window for voting to take place. So that starts tomorrow, and it starts directly after the online hustings, which I'll go into details of soon, but again, that's for members only. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if you're not a Reform member or not interested in being a Reform member, this video isn't really for you. In the event of a tie, the result will be decided by a coin toss. A candidate may withdraw at any time by putting their decision in writing to the General Secretary. Their withdrawal will be confirmed once the General Secretary has replied to accept their withdrawal. In the event of any candidate who is withdrawn or is incapacitated, securing enough votes to finish in the top 3, the next place candidate shall be elected to the board. Once voting has closed at 10 PM on the 21st of August, the candidates will be informed of the outcome before the results are made public on the 22nd of August. In all disputes, the decision of the General Secretary as returning officer is final. So that all seems prim and proper, and if you are a Reform member, you should look into voting for this. It is, I think, a rather important step because obviously, you know, there's been a lot of people like, well, say Ben Habib, and there's even been people obviously within Reform as well, who are a bit concerned, we'll say, that a lot of the decisions of the party have come directly from the top and trickled down, obviously. Some feedback from membership is required. Obviously, I do believe the board has been taking that on board for some time, but to have even more direct membership representation on the board, I think this is a good idea. There's 10 members of the board, including the 3 member-voted board members, so 7 who were appointed by, obviously, Farage and the top team, 3 who were voted on by the members, after they've been nominated, of course, by enough branch chairs, which we've already gone through, and we've ended up with 17 of them, which I will go through soon. However, on to the online hustings. So if you have been a Reform member for a while, you will have seen an email like this. I've cut out the Dear My Name part for obvious reasons. The live online hustings for the party board elections is taking place this Thursday. Tune in to hear from each candidate on why they believe they deserve your vote, and click here to join the live stream or scan the QR code. Obviously, you will have had this email, hopefully. If not, I suppose inform your branch chairman. The party is holding a vote of all members to choose 3 party board members, with 17 candidates vying for a place in our party's most important decision-making body. And at the end of the hustings, the voting will be open until 10 PM on 21st of August. Members eligible to vote will receive information on how to do it via email on Thursday, and the vote is being conducted by Civica, an independent third-party organisation, and obviously at the bottom there's a please donate if you can. After all, we are all topping the opinion polls, so do check your emails. Again, I think this is quite an important vote for the members of Reform to get involved with, hence I'm doing a whole video on it. So this is a page that is open to the public, and you can see each candidate and a bit of a profile on them as you so please. Obviously there's 17 of them. They have all been nominated by 20, I think the magic number was, or at least 20 party branch chairmen, within Reform branches, of course, meaning that they are basically already voted and nominated on by members, or at least the people who are most accountable to the members of Reform. I've been to branch meetings. The party chairmen do quite a lot of work and oversee the whole operation for local council elections and things like that. They're good people who work hard and for absolutely no pay whatsoever, or at least as far as I'm aware it's a completely voluntary position. So on that base alone, every candidate on this list is a good candidate, but obviously we want to pick the best. And I suppose it's at this point I should mention who I am endorsing, or at least so far, because I have two pretty much confirmed votes. So the first and probably most obvious one is Gawain Towler. Gawain Towler has been working with Nigel Farage since 2004 and has basically been with him through thick and thin ever since, through UKIP to the Brexit Party and now obviously to Reform. And even after getting infamously Goldman sacked by Zia Youssef for basically not agreeing with Zia Youssef's strategy as being the spokesman for Reform, he effectively got sacked for not doing it to the way Zia would like. One of the feathers that was ruffled by the input of Zia Youssef, who, well, at the same time in every interview basically says Zia Youssef is very good at what he does and has really helped professionalise the party. He is a man who is ultimately a Reform and Farage loyalist to the extreme. That is a man that I would like on the party board. But not only that, he is excellent in his writing and his media appearances. And I think a very, very good communicator is someone that obviously the members would want on the board to effectively communicate membership issues to Farage and other members of the board. Because as I said, he is a very good communicator and obviously links to everything I'm posting here in the description. Obviously not my email, that's the only exception. And I did a video on this particular, well, it was a speech, but this Substack from Gawain a while ago called Navigating the Minefield of Power, in which it is a speech, effectively, where Gawain is largely just explaining where Reform are at the moment on the political landscape and how they are effectively going to manoeuvre their way into number 10 in government. And when they're there, how they are actually going to manoeuvre around the massive bureaucracy that has been put in place through, well, numerous governments. We can't just blame Blair at this point. And how also, when it comes to making policy, they're in contact with, well, a whole range of experts. It's a very, very well-made speech. I imagine it was a well-made speech, but it is a well-written Substack as well, and shows that Gawain really knows what he's talking about, and therefore is someone I would like on the board. And obviously, as I say, he's just an excellent communicator, making many, many appearances on GB News, among with other alternative media outlets, such as interviews with the Taxpayers Alliance, and obviously less alternative media, like he's been on The Spectator a few times. So he was a very easy vote in virtue of being, well, one of the most well-known members of the candidate list and being a very effective campaigner for Reform at that. He's got over 20 years' experience. I think he's worthwhile having. But another candidate I have actually come across, who, to be honest with you, quite uniquely impressed me, was Nick Goulding, who is ex-forces and also owns a small business, I think a number of small businesses actually, which are two aspects of a person that I do particularly like. And also, again, he is a party loyalist and not necessarily a Farage loyalist. He stood for the Brexit Party quite a few times and stood for the Reform Party in elections quite a few times and was quite a big player in the Cero poaching election in Runcorn. I believe he was working almost daily helping out the election there, which, you know, in large part thanks to his hard work, we won by 6 points. Sorry, not 6 points, that's percent. 6 votes. According to his bio, he also has an experience in lobbying as well, and guess what? You want someone on the board who is going to be a good lobbyist. So these reasons alone that are all in his bio were reasons that he caught my eye. But he also clearly is a man who very much cares about the membership, which, since we're members and voting for this guy, I can't see how that's going to be a bad pick. However, I took a look at his Twitter account and he's also, while it is small, made a couple of promises that again are really showing that he would be a good pick, with the first example being the support of local branches having the final say in selecting their candidates from amongst those who have applied, including that from central office. So obviously parachuting candidates isn't as easy as it would be in other parties, sure, but in a way that's also very good because the whole A-list issue that came from Cameron and the shortlist issue that you get in the Labour Party, just circumvent that. Great stuff. And another promise from Goulding is that he intends to regularly visit branches across Great Britain and also have open communication with the branch officers to ensure that obviously he has constant contact with the branches and the membership so that he can bring priorities straight to the board. And I'm not saying Goulding is necessarily unique in all of these aspects. What I am saying is that when I came across him, I was uniquely impressed that he had all these sorts of aspects coming together into what, frankly, I saw as an ideal candidate. And on top of that, he is also quite open to talking and trying to bring back over the people who have left Reform in favour of, say, following Rupert Lowe or Ben Habib. People like Nick Buckley, who did stand for the Brexit Party and I believe possibly for Reform as the Mayor of Manchester candidate, but fell out of favour with Reform later on. And they had a 1-hour discussion, and actually near the end, once again, the typical, as I call them, dork-right points of magic words with mass deportation were brought up. And again, I think Nick handled it rather well.
I'd say two things about it. Firstly, there is a range of opinions from people who do support Reform, from yours to perhaps close to mine. But at the moment, our key problem is getting Reform elected, because anything else is purely gesture politics. The other thing I would say is I don't think that the politics of this is finished yet. And I think the politics of it will change once we start in a robust way making the changes that Reform is committed to. So I would reserve my judgment on lots of these things until I see what the human response is to the way in which our policies play out.
And to be honest with you, the whole conversation with the two Nicks there is rather worth a listen to, again, link in description. But this is pretty much my position on the whole, well, immigration side of things when it comes to Reform. Is it perfect? No, I don't expect anything to be. However, it is in the right direction and is making, effectively, people with normie views on immigration happy, and should be making quite a few people who are more on the mass deportation side happy, because at the end of the day, this is an ongoing conversation. Who do we deport and how many? And I think being puritanical about it is a little bit silly, because at the end of the day, I'm not necessarily against the idea of mass deportation. Hell, Trump's doing it and it's fine, though the illegal case over there is a lot bigger than our illegal case. Our problem is legal migration, which brings with it all sorts of problems. However, as mentioned, there's a lot of policy and reform outside of direct deportation that will affect people's behaviour, change incentives, and will probably make a lot of people, well, lose the pull factors for being here and effectively move elsewhere, whether that's back to where they came from or somewhere else in Europe, who knows. And I think Nick gets the point across quite well, that ultimately the best thing to do, really, the highest priority, is getting Reform into power. That's pretty much all that matters. The way to do that is to, as I say over and over again, effectively make people vote right-wing, because I think a lot of people are naturally on the right wing of things, but make sure that they feel like they're not voting for Nazis. In fact, make them vote for people that they think are vehemently against Nazis, which Reform are. Obviously, Nick didn't quite put it like that. He put it much more diplomatically than I can, but at the end of the day, I'm not running to be a board member. So those are my two endorsements. When it comes to my third vote, effectively I've got quite an open mind. There's a few people who I've got at the forefront of it, such as Alex Wilson, who's part of the London Assembly. Richard Barker's another one that I'm thinking about as well, not just because his background's in geology as well as mine, but because I've seen quite a few other people endorse him on Twitter and things like that, so there must be something good in him. As I say, I've got an open mind. One thing I would probably suggest you don't vote for is people who are basically on the board looking to up their own profile as their priority, because those are the types of people who will end up stabbing you in the back and stabbing the party in the back. I don't think there's anyone, to be fair, in the nominations who would do that. However, raising your own profile does tend to screw around your incentives of how you will work within the party, and I would personally like to avoid that, not naming any names at the moment. But what I will say is, if you made it this far and you're not a member, what are you doing? Become a member. You can't vote in this, but you can vote in future internal elections. If you are a member, obviously look out for the email with the online hustings link. Obviously I can't link it myself because it's supposed to be private. And obviously do think hard about who you are going to vote for, and I hope you take my suggestions on board. Anyway, just a quick one there to give you an update for what's going on in Reform. As I say, I'm with, well, everyone in Reform, All that really matters is getting them in power, and the way to do that is to be populist. And what's the populist position? Deport a load of illegals and criminals, that's 90-odd% of people want that. Fix the economy, reduce nanny statism, etc, etc. Basically, people are fed up with leftism. So why would you not vote for the party that is directly opposed to ridiculous leftism? Well, to be fair, I think most people on this channel are reform activists anyway, or if you're not, you're at least voters, so there you go. Right, with that, that's everything I had for you for today. So, if you're a fan of what I do, do subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. You can also become a member, or leave a super chat, super thanks on any stream or any video that I do. As for shilling, it's Hollow Knight on Thursday, then next Tuesday it's some Tosh News over on the Worcester Club, more Hollow Knight next Thursday, and Laughing at the Guardian next Saturday. Videos out as and when I can make them. Right, with that, that's everything I had for you for today. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.